our community has a referendum on the ballot that asks for folks to support a $59.6 million bond issue for the next phase, or how to address that next phase of growth that our district is experiencing. This referendum grew out of really an intense 9 months of study of identification of issues that we needed to address, and then some possible remedies on what needed to be part of that, addressing those issues. And that study grew out of a 20-year demographics plan that we put together in 08-09. We went and talked with the cities of La Vista and Papillion, the city of Bellevue, and the county, and talked about their future plan for land use across the area as our community develops. And so we used that plan and have continued to update that plan since 08-09 when it was finalized, to help us take a look at what needs to be done now, in the near future and in long range future, on what we need to be prepared for. And so that plan was the document that we used to share with our boards beginning last January on what needed to be done to address our current issues. And so we've got information for you today that that study took place over several months, and part of that study was we started with some recommendations in January on what we needed to do as administration to present to the board on some remedies for some issues that were facing us at that point in time. We also use that time for the board, who's very in tune to what's going on in our community and has access from lots of folks around the community, on what have you heard on other things that maybe not on the table right now that we need to at least be aware of and at least take the opportunity to discuss as we're taking a look at a potential bond issue. So basically what we tried to do is we tried to get all those issues on the table, starting with the big end of the funnel, and then get some feedback from our staff, from our community, on what makes sense to try to take forward at this point in time if we were going to address it in a bond issue at this point in time. So as we heard from our staff, as we heard from our community on things that needed to be done or need to be on the forefront in the minds of our board when they went to make a decision, these four things are things that came loudly and clearly through the process. Is that, first of all, whatever you do, need to be sure that you're able to work on maintaining the really good things and the excellence that's going on as far as the district's concerned. And those things included things like class sizes, important programs and opportunities for kids, whether it's in the fine arts, the co-curriculars, the academy pieces. Be sure that you're able to maintain those things, because we think those are good things that are going on in the district. Also, what you need to do is come up with a solution to overcrowding that currently exists in the district, and we'll talk about those in just a couple of minutes. And then also, how do you be positioned for future growth as it's coming, when it gets here, so that if future bond issues are going to be needed, and they will be, that you're not stacking things up and coming with these gigantic things. Can you manage growth so you spread out the ramifications of future bond issues, and that you're not all trying to get it all done at one point in time. Also, to improve existing facilities, we have, in our previous bond issues as a district, tried to take buildings that have multiple issues that you haven't been able to get through an ongoing maintenance program that you have in place. What is an opportunity, a bond issue, to address multiple issues in individual buildings to try to remedy those at that point in time. So include those as you take a look at what you're doing as far as a bond issue is concerned. And then certainly take the opportunity to upgrade security and safety across the district where you might have issues that you can address through bond issues as well. What you see is one of the two really important documents that we had that came out of that 08-09 study. And we went back, and basically what you have is a 39-year snapshot of what's happened enrollment-wise across the district over the last 39 years. And you go back to 1974, and our district was basically made up of about 5,000 students, kindergarten through 12th grade. And you can show over that 39 years that we've averaged about 2% per year in growth on an annual basis in student enrollment. And back in 74, 2% a year meant about 100 students a year. And what's happened periodically over our community is that you can accommodate 100 students per year for a given amount of time. But after a while, you've outgrown your facilities. And it's at that point in time when the enrollment need has been realized that we've come to our community asking you for bond issues. Well, what we see right now is in 2011, 2012, Papillion-La Vista schools went over the 10,000 student threshold for the first time. And what we saw was again that 2% growth that allowed us to get there. Since last year, we grew 360 students, but almost 3.6% from last year to this year. So you can see that we right now have about 10,400 students in our school district in K-12. If you add 3- and 4-year-old preschool students on top of that, actually we're serving about 10,700, almost 10,800 students on a daily basis across the district. Our 5-year growth rate, about 2.76%. Over the last 10 years, about 2.67%. But again, that long range 1.8 or 2% growth is what we've looked at. So as the board sat down to take a look at what's happened and what we need to plan on, we didn't try to plan on a worst case scenario, a 2.76%, or a 3.6%. We said, let's just keep in mind that long-range plan has been about 2%. What do we need to do to prepare to adapt for a 2% growth in the immediate future? And so that's the premise that they used as they worked upon planning forward for this bond issue. This next piece is probably the most important and most telling piece that we have in our long-range plan. And what we take a look at is you've got a map of the district. Just for some points of reference, on the north side, our north boundary would be Harrison Street. On the south side, you see basically Schramm Road on the south side, takes the most southern point on the district. On the west, you see some spots where we grow out as far as 132nd Street. And on the east, you see inside the city limits of Bellevue with Golden Hills Elementary and Anderson Grove on the east. Some crossroads, Giles Road, Highway 370, go from that east to west. And then you see 120th Street, 96th Street, 84th Street, and 72nd Street. As we looked at this map in 2008, 2009, we went subdivision by subdivision of existing platted lots that were in the district. And we went neighborhood by neighborhood. So on this map, first of all, the red spots on the map were existing subdivisions in the district that had vacant lots, or they might have foundations on them, but they weren't occupied residences along the line. And with this, what we could determine based upon a district-wide average is that we know we generate 0.6 students every time a house is built. That's going to generate 0.6 students for us. If it's a multiple family dwelling like a duplex or an apartment complex, we generate 0.25 students per unit along that line. So what we could project from land use and filling into these subdivisions, that once these subdivisions were filled in, our projections would be that we would grow almost 1,500 students from existing platted lots. Now that was important for us, and it allows us some immediate planning. But what we also then, in talking with the city planners and the county planners, is that we took a look at what future land use across the district was going to look like. And what that determined for us, you see the yellow spots on the map, those would be future single-family subdivisions across the district. And the tan spots on this map would be zoned for future multiple family dwellings. So we could go by the number of acres available for development, 0.6 students per single house, 0.25 per multiple family dwelling. And what that showed us is that build out, and again, projecting about over the next 20 years, is that would generate for Papillion-La Vista School District another 6,600 students on top of approximately 1,500 students from the lots that were already platted. Our 20-year study showed us that at build out, we would see somewhere in the neighborhood of 17,000 students within the boundaries of the Papillion-La Vista School District. That would generate, over the current 14 elementary schools, 6 additional elementaries. Over the current 2 middle schools, 2 more middle schools. And over the current 2 high schools, a third high school as we get to that build out in approximately 20 years. So this plan told us that this is what we need to be prepared for. We also knew as we talked with folks that it made the most sense. The next best burst, I guess, or pocket or area for growth would be west of 96th Street, between Giles and Highway 370, and immediately south of Highway 370. Made the most sense to us. So in January, that's the premise that we presented to our board as planning was going along. At the same time as this study was being developed, we became aware of, by talking to Papillion Natural Resources District, that there were 3 flood control dams planned for the metro area. And what we also found out is that all 3 of those dam sites were planned for within the confines of the Papillion-La School District boundaries. Now, what does that mean besides the fact that there's going to be more lakes and water and maybe some fishing for crappie and bluegill and things like that? Well, what that meant to us is you just simply take a look at what that meant to the Papillion-La School District at Walnut Creek. Walnut Creek, a flood control dam. And then you take a look at all the housing that developed on the south side and along the east side of that dam site, and the number of students that generated for us. That's the difference in the land use from ag land as you move west of 96th Street, is what we can project as far as future growth for the district. 2 weeks ago, on my desk, again, after the decision was made to go forward with the bond issue, 2 weeks ago, I have a notice from the Papillion City Planning Commission. We have 2 subdivisions planned right away. For western area here, we have a 325 home subdivision planned in the proximity of Warner Park, north of 370, and a subdivision just south of 370, 112 homes. The 112 home subdivision will generate between 65 and 70 students for us. And the 325 home subdivision will generate between 190 and 200 students for us. Those are on the immediate horizon. As that subdivision starts to develop, we have to have some place for those students to be able to go. And my next couple slides will tell you why we don't have an easy solution for that. Here's some of the headlines you saw in the World Herald as we started talking about planning for future growth. Interestingly enough, it wasn't until on July 30th, our Board of Education said, yes, we need to move forward with a vote to the community. The next day, the World Herald ran a story on the board's decision to go with the bond issue and the size of the bond issue. And right beside that story was also this story. Papillion Area Lake could start as early as this fall. In all honesty, as we were planning for this, we didn't know when that groundbreaking was going to occur. We knew it was in the near future. We thought sometime 2013, maybe early 2014. In reality, what this headline told us is that fall 2012, or at the latest, as far as that goes, early 2013. We know that ground is being broken now for that. So that just simply said that actually, it's 6 to 12 months sooner than what we were planning as we talked in January for a remedy, what was going to happen and what we needed to be prepared to be able to deal with as far as land use was concerned. So what I want to show you right now, the next couple slides, I'm going to talk to you about 2 new schools that are planned, 2 new schools in construction in this bond issue, and why. First of all, as we build buildings, our floor plan or our footprint for those buildings, design buildings to serve 450 students. That's the approximate length, and that tells you it's going to be 3 classes per grade level, 3 kindergarten, 3 first, 3 second, all through 6th grade. That's the best delivery of programs for students, and so with that, and it's also a footprint that we've used because we've got a design that works. Rumsey Station, Walnut Creek, Bell Elementary, Portal Elementary, Patriot Elementary, all use that same footprint. Not only is it a footprint that works for us programming-wise, but it's also economically, it makes a lot of sense, because if we tried to go to design, it saves us about $250,000 to $500,000 in architectural and design fees, because we've got a floor plan that works, so we don't have to use that kind of money to come up with a design to be used. So it makes good fiscal sense as well. But what we have at Portal Elementary, building built for 450 students, today has 596 students in it. We have 3 portable classrooms outside the building. As I shared with the people the patrons and parents that live in the portal attendance area, I said to them, before we get a bond issue passed and a building built, this building will be 650 or more students. You just need to know that. We'll serve you through portables at that point in time, but that's just the reality until that situation occurs. Portal Elementary, in a subdivision that has a lot of room for growth in the currently platted land. So all that can happen is as those homes fill in, that building just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the only way to come up with a remedy for Portal Elementary will be to actually remove some of the subdivisions that feed into that building and reassign them to a different building. That's the only way to get relief to Portal Elementary. So that has to be part of this plan. Patriot Elementary, built for 450, 520 students in that building. We have 2 portable classrooms. Patriot provides a different situation than Portal Elementary. Patriot is served by, serves the communities of, or subdivisions of Summit Ridge and Savannah Shores. 2 subdivisions that are just about built out, 30 to 40 lots available. If nothing happened differently, we could serve that Patriot community with modulars until that is all built out, the population starts to filter out, and then we can eventually get to a point in time where we could remove the portables and feed those 2 communities right at Patriot, like we do at Rumsey now. Rumsey Station had 6 classrooms in portables outside of that building for a lot of years. But eventually the population topped out and moved back into the building, and the modulars are no longer there. But we have a different situation at Patriot, because what happens is that Patriot Elementary, while it's maxed out now and beyond capacity, all the area south of 370 to the west of Patriot, when that fills in, needs to be served someplace. And right now, without an additional building, it all feeds back into Patriot, which is already beyond capacity. It just can't handle that. So what we're trying to do with this situation with the new elementary is take a look at a location that's centrally located between 370 and Giles, west of 96, that will help us get the population, some of the population out of Portal Elementary into a new elementary school, serve the immediate needs as we move westward, and then we can allow that to serve the needs of that first expansion west until we have a better understanding of what the needs are as subdivisions develop and where might be the best location for the next elementary school in the next bond issue. So we're trying to accomplish a lot of things and handle that first wave of growth by 1 new elementary school in this bond issue. Also in this bond issue is a new middle school. And right now we have 2 middle schools, La Vista Junior High, Papillion Junior High, one serving about 780 students and the other serving about 750 students this year. We know that you take a look at our existing elementary population and you take our existing kids without any kind of growth to the district and you roll those forward into the future grade levels, our current 4th and 5th graders will take both those buildings beyond capacity without any kind of growth as it occurs. So we're saying to our patrons, we know the population is here. The population is here will take us beyond capacity. Because it takes 30 to 36 months to construct a building, we're going to already be beyond capacity by the time if we went to work on that right away if the bond issue passed. We'd like to have that building in this plan right now and not wait for modulars outside the existing junior highs before we start building construction. So that's why that plan is in here. Also in this plan, you're going to see in renovations, you're going to see expansions of the cafeterias and the lunchrooms. Because right now, in order to get 780 kids through at La Vista Junior High and 750 kids through at Papillion Junior High, we start serving lunch at 10:39 in the morning. And that last lunch group is done at 12:52. The larger the building gets, the longer it's going to take to get kids through. So we need to take a look at that kind of a thing. We know that with the existing populations as they roll through, we'll need to disperse those students to 3 middle schools. And that will not be probably an identically even distribution, because the new middle school, as is planned to the west, will have to accommodate growth as it occurs. So logically, La Vista Junior High and Papillion Junior High student populations will be logically a little bit larger than that in the new middle school, because that new middle school is going to have to handle the population as we grow west. But what it'll allow us to do is, and the recognition is that the day we open that third new middle school, all three of those buildings will be at the smallest enrollment as they're going to be as far as the district's concerned, because growth is coming and continues to cycle through. We also have an interesting extra bonus, I guess, or benefit in going for a bond issue at this point in time. There may not have been a better time historically, or at least probably in the last 50 years, as far as interest rates are concerned. So when you go to let bonds, when you go to talk about construction costs, you go to about a bidding process for availability of work at this point in time, it's probably not a better time to try to look at not only renovation projects, but also new construction as far as the district's concerned. So that becomes an added bonus to us as far as timing on this bond issue. And this is just a snapshot. You take a look at existing students right now, and you roll 4th and 5th graders through. You can see that by 2015, 2016, we'll be almost 70 students beyond capacity and almost 20 students beyond capacity in our existing junior highs. If you take a look and do a one-time 2% enrollment increase, not the average of 2% per year that we've had for the last 39 years, a one-time 2% burst on our 4th and 5th grade students increases both those enrollments by almost 20 students. So if you did that on an annual basis, that becomes 60 to 80 more students based upon that 2% growth that we've had every year. So they certainly are going to make this beyond capacity matter or projection greater and greater. We also have 6 renovation projects as part of this bond issue. On this slide and the next several, the floor plans show that anything that's in yellow are interior renovations. Anything that's in blue is new construction to these buildings. La Vista Junior High, built in the early 70s, actually 1974, it opened up during a time where open concept classrooms, which means very few or no walls, no doors in the back of classrooms. You had open space areas with multiple teachers and multiple classrooms in those open spaces. Your energy, because the energy situation was you're trying to handle rising energy costs, and so you had your design of your buildings was for open flow of air throughout the building, and so with that, as time went along, I tell people that bookcases started to become in between classrooms to break up classroom space. They got higher, then eventually what we started doing is started putting portable walls. And so what you have is that you had rooms that had walls, but they had maybe the back of the classroom was open, and so people would walk down a hallway and the classrooms were wide open, and there were no doors on the back of those rooms. Well, what's happened to us is that we need to go back in and do just a major interior renovation to Papillion Junior High, similar to what we did at Papillion-La Vista High School 3 and 4 years ago. Just a major, you've got ceilings will be open, floors will be open, permanent walls put in, doors in the back of classrooms, redoing of the ductwork, thermostats throughout the building, sprinkling throughout the building. Those are the kinds of things that have to occur at La Vista Junior High as far as renovations are concerned. We need to increase the size of the cafeteria. We need to increase the size of the kitchen. La Vista Junior High and Papillion-La Vista South High School are our production kitchens. They do the main preparation of all food for all of the buildings in the district, and then it's distributed out from there on a daily basis. So we need to expand that. Also, this is our safety initiative, and we picked up input from law enforcement, from community reps on our safety committee. They said, you really need to pay attention to, and they actually acknowledge what we knew, is that we have situations in several of our buildings where we have our front door, and then our second set of doors is right nearby, and we can lock down all the exits around our building during the course of the day, but you can't lock down that front door because people need to be able to get into your buildings. Well, for example, at La Vista Junior High, we have a situation where this is our office area at La Vista Junior High, and right now this is a solid block and brick wall that goes from ground to roof. There are no windows in that area. So right now what we have is a situation is people come in, they park in the parking lot, and they come in and they go through these 2 sets of doors. Unless you park somebody and you hire somebody to sit in that commons area all day long to check people in and keep track of who comes in, basically what happens is the entire envelope of the building is wide open to anybody all day long. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create a situation where we're going to put an opening into that office area. We'll connect that office end over to that entryway. As students and staff are in the door at the start of the day, front door will stay open, but the second set of doors get locked. You can't access the rest of the building. But what you do is you do go in right through the building. We feed you in through the office. People know who are there. They check you in. They know who's there, who's not. When you go to leave the building, you have to go out through the office. So we're able to accommodate for who's there and who's not. And so that's the type of thing we're talking about as safety and security across the district and some of the renovations that we're doing into buildings. Yes? We do not have them, in most of our buildings do not have. The buildings that do not have a line of sight to that front entryway, we have 3 or 4 elementary schools that have cameras and we've got television monitoring in the office area. There's a buzzer that goes off when people come in, but the doors are not locked down. There's not a buzzer entry type of thing along that line. So. That's because we don't have a lot of buildings. Again, you take a look at that design that we're using, that footprint, where we have about 5 or 6 buildings, that same footprint. That entire front walkway, the entire set of double doors is right across from the office. So line of sight, but we have some buildings where that line of sight is not there. So we have put some cameras into those. And there's not. And that's why this is it's a no-brainer. We've just got to do that. There's also, at both Papillion Junior High and La Vista Junior High, we have locker rooms that are below grade. The only way you access them is you've got to go downstairs. And we have students with mobility issues. We have staff members with mobility issues. When we have activities, we have referees or we have coaches that come into those buildings that have mobility issues that can't get down the stairs. So we found ourselves in a situation, what do we do to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act? And what's the best way to do it? We have both at Papillion Junior High and La Vista Junior High fairly limited plots as far as land is concerned. So do we spend millions of dollars and and create boys and girls locker rooms on the same level with all the rest of the building is, or do we take $100,000 to $200,000 and sink elevator shafts and make them accessible that way? We think it's a lot more cost-effective way to put elevators in. So at La Vista Junior High, that's new construction on the outside of that building right there. At Papillion Junior High, it'll be an elevator shaft that's sunk within the envelope of the building. Papillion Junior High, not as much extensive work as you can see on the envelope of the building. A big reason for that is in 1994, we put a whole second story onto Papillion Junior High. That used to be a single-story building. Well, that whole second story on that building is brand new, and so when we put that on, we had to also do all kinds of modifications on the interior of the building. So the interior doesn't take as much work, but what we do need to do is, this is a cafeteria right now. We're going to put a new cafeteria on it. This is the kitchen area right now. We're going to put a new kitchen area on that area along that way. And just like we're doing at La Vista Junior High, this is the tech ed area. We need to expand that area, both La Vista Junior High and Papillion Junior High, to give that a better space so we can deliver the curriculum that we're really delivering today. So that upgrades that. Here's the elevator shaft that will sink into the envelope of the building at Papillion Junior High. And at Papillion Junior High, this is the main entryway when folks come into the building. And we've got a double set of doors that sit right here and then right beside it. About 2 steps in, there's a second set of doors. After you clear those second set of doors right now in that building, instead of cameras, what we did is we've got a little window that sits right here that if you're sitting in the office, if you're looking out at the right time when people walk in, you know who's there, but there's no check-in spot that you have to absolutely guarantee. What we're going to do is we're going to take that second set of doors further into the envelope of the building. That window will become a doorway. And so we'll lock down those second set of doors, force people in through the office to check in when they get there. We have renovations planned for these 4 buildings for 2 reasons. Number 1, they all have multiple issues that need to be addressed. And number 2, they're probably the longest period of time since we've done extensive work in these 4 buildings. So Golden Hills, Trumbull Park, Parkview Heights, and Terra Heights all will have a remodeling of their entry to force that entryway in as far as security is concerned. We'll have some ADA accessibility upgrades either in their buildings or on the site that creates better accessibility for ADA access. And then they will have finishing kitchens put onto their buildings, will help us to do a little bit better delivery of that food service program right in those buildings as well. Golden Hills, similar situation because it's so much yellow in here. It's because, again, built in that early to mid 70s, open space concept, total renovation as far as interior to include permanent walls, doors on the back of the walls, energy conservation and energy flow throughout the building become major issues. Right now, this is one of those buildings that has a camera, excuse me, in the office. It's right now. And it actually has a TV screen in here with the camera on the front entryway door. What we're going to do is that this is a commons area. It's got a pit in the front commons area. We're going to fill in the pit. We're going to move the office from here over to this front commons area. The entryway is going to be offset, so they walk in, second set of doors are locked down, and then you move into the office to check in, and then you're checked in as far as the building is concerned. Again, right now, office is here, TV screen in there, and a camera on the door, but there's not a buzzer system. The doors are open, and so that's what we're going to do as far as to address that piece. Parkview Heights, first and foremost, is being able even to get onto the site. Parkview Heights is a single lane driveway coming in. We're going to widen that driveway so parents there to pick up can still be on the driveway and off the street to park, but people who need to get into the driveway at dismissal time can actually get in and get in here and get parked and do their business without having to wait in line for sometimes a half hour, because the parents might get there real early to be first in line to pick up their kids, start getting there about quarter to 3 for a 3, and so if you've got business, you can't even get on the site because you have to wait in line. So we're going to expand that. Interior renovations, relocation of the office. This is now the office, and this is now a classroom. We're going to flip-flop that so we can do that security piece as far as the building is concerned for access. Terra Heights, not as much extensive renovation work has to be done. 53-year-old building from original construction. We have some perimeter work around the outside because of settling. So we've got some foundation, we've got some block and brick work, some dirt work, but pretty minor as far as the outside of that building. This is the current front entrance that's used primarily by students and staff and community during the day. What we're going to do is we will use this entrance as we always have done, but once school starts, that entryway is going to be completely locked off. People can use this driveway, can use the parking in the back, and they'll have to enter in on the west side of the building, which then will take them to the office, check in, and then they have the envelope of the building that they can then be accessible to after they've checked in. Expand the kitchen is what the blue area was. Trumbull Park. Not a lot has to be done, but we still have some classrooms that we need to get more permanent walls in and doors in the back of those rooms. We're going to remodel the office area. We also are going to lose some on-street parking that we have down here. The city tells us that Valley Road, which now is an in, turn around and out the same way, will connect eventually to 90th Street. It's all been surveyed over there. So when that happens, we lose some parking along the street. It's also a site that has a serious lack of parking on the site. So we're going to go to the back of the building, the north side of the building. We'll cut into that hill, level that out, put additional parking on that site. We're going to take the dirt from that hill over to Papillion Junior High across the street, expand the parking and light the parking over there. We need to get dirt on that to bring it above the floodplain level, so we'll expand parking at Papillion Junior High also. 2 new buildings, 6 renovations are part of what we're talking about. And then there's 2 other pieces. First and foremost, we have a serious lack of capability as it relates to moving information and accessing information. Our buildings, it's on a daily basis, lock up because there's so much access to information that's necessary, and the lines or the cabling coming into our buildings is seriously undersized. So we want to tap into the fiber optics as far as that's concerned. What you need to know is in Papillion-La Vista schools, a technology infrastructure update does not include things like computers, projectors, smart boards, iPads. It makes no sense to ask our community to pay back bonds over a 20-year period to purchase equipment that's obsolete in 3 or 4 years. We don't do that in Papillion-La Vista schools, but we do need to have access to that information. So that's the part that's part of what's included in this. That's not necessarily a construction piece that you see, but we'll access fiber optics and then trench fiber optics back to all the buildings so they've got access to the information capabilities that they need. And then lastly, we need to be hopefully ahead of developers as we go to try to purchase sites for elementary, junior high, and high school buildings in the future. We've been extremely fortunate that our developers, when they go to construct a development or subdivision, have been really good about donating sites for elementary buildings. When you're talking 40 acres for a junior high or 80 acres for a high school, there's no developer that can donate that kind of land at that kind of cost to them and be able to recapture that from selling lots. You can't do that. But generally, back when land was $1,000 to $2,000 to $5,000 an acre, 6 acres to 8 acres of land for an elementary site was easily recapturable as you sold your lots to the people, and people it's going to really sell quickly if you're in the neighborhood where an elementary school is going to be at. So. But what we have a situation now is that as people are working for future subdivisions, that land is going for $40,000 to $50,000 to $55,000 an acre for unimproved ag land right now, and to try to recapture those kinds of costs in selling lots, you can't sell your homes, you can't sell the lots. So we're going to have to buy future sites as far as elementaries are concerned. So this bond issue is going to include some dollars that will allow us to purchase sites for one elementary and one junior high. If we're able to get some negotiations done that allows us to get those sites and there's money left over, it gives us some seed money to also try to get out ahead of developers for future land acquisition as well. It's easier and better for us to be able to negotiate with the landowner than have to negotiate with the developer as far as the future is concerned. In January, when all the issues were put on the table from the board ideas and what we'd heard from the community and those kinds of things, the price tag that we went out to talk about as far as what do you think about this? Do you understand what we're trying to do? What are your reactions to it? That price tag was about $65.5 million. The feedback that we got from staff, the feedback that we got back from our community folks said, we understand the importance of buildings for overcapacity, for delivery of instruction, those kinds of things. But there's some things on there like activity fields, lighting for activity fields, parking at the stadium, that we said, you know, this bond issue looks like it's going to be large enough that this is probably not the best time to include those kinds of things. We understand that you may need access to those things in the future, but on a bond issue, it's not the time to do that. So the board heard that, and those kinds of things came out. So we started wide, and as things came out, we took about $6.5 million out of the bond issue that was coming forward to the community. So what we're coming forward with is $59.6 million. The new construction and the renovation pieces, the largest pieces of that, are what the community and our staff told us, concentrate on instructional space. The other two things, as far as the fiber and the land acquisition, are still things that are just absolutely necessary for us to do as we move forward. So what does $59.6 million mean to us? Our belief is that we need to let our taxpayers know what the worst case scenario is going to be for them as an individual property owner when all the bonds are issued. This is a third bond that I've been a part of in the 15 years I've been in the district. We have always in the previous two said, this is a worst case scenario for when we built Papillion-La Vista South High School. The last one, we put 14 classrooms onto Papillion-La Vista South. We put $12 million into Monarch. We built 2 elementaries out of that bond issue. We said this is a worst case scenario if there's no increase in valuation in the land. So people could make a decision what would happen. We've never gotten to that levy of what the worst case scenario is going to be because our valuations have grown as the community has expanded. What we're saying to you today is in 2016, 2017, which would probably be the earliest date that we would have all $59.6 million in bonds issued. The cost would be, without a major increase or without an increase in land valuations, an additional 4.2 cents on the levy that you're paying today. And the reason it's going to take 4 to 5 years for that to get to that point is because we cannot do 2 new constructions and 6 major renovations all at one time. It has to be phased in, with priorities going to those areas of greatest need and also the money that's available as we go to issue those bonds to do some of those renovation projects. So it has to be phased in. Would say to you, in the first year, there would be no valuation increase. There'd be no levy increase. Chances are real good even in that second year, there would not be. But if there's no valuation increases across the district, by the time all $59.6 million in bonds are issued, that worst case scenario would be 4.2 cents of an increase on the levy. What does that mean? We use typically a $100,000 piece of property because we know we have properties in our district that might be less than that, and we know we have district properties that are more than that. But operating off the formula that if it's going to cost $42 a year on a $100,000 home or $100,000 piece of property, if my property is valued at $50, it's going to be half of that, $21. If it's $200,000, it's going to be double that, and so on. And we know our community can figure that out. What does $42 a year mean? It means about $3.50 a month at the point in time that all those bonds have been issued. So again, the bond issue, the goals are there's 4 main ones. Maintain that excellence, address that in student enrollment issues that we have, current overcrowding, and the future enrollment that's coming to handle that first wave of growth. Because I tell people, this in Papillion-La Vista, this is the next bond issue. Because you saw 17,000 students at build out, it will not be the last bond issue. Our board attempts to try to spread the ramifications of the need for building out to a point in time where you don't have to put a lot of buildings on top of one type of bond issue, that we can spread that out and handle that growth. Sometimes handling that growth means modulars or temporaries outside of buildings, but it gets us to the next point in time where economically and financial impact on our community and on our district, it makes the most sense that now is the time to go forward. So it's to get us to that next point and then to improve those existing facilities and try to upgrade safety and security where we can. So that's the bond issue as it is. With that, I would take whatever questions you might have for me.